So there is a process underway. I think the chair, I think I've answered the question about the funding model that is funded through the 15 countries and more, as I say, also from UN. The ceasefire, I think we agreed with members who are saying diplomacy is the only agreed process if we want peace in the DRC. I think that the generals will explain the flag, we tried to explain, but I think there's a need to explain again. Who is going to be there? There was a question there. Is all that meeting on Friday identified affected parties? That indeed you will have to get Rwanda around the table, you have to get DRC around the table, but we have to get Kenya also as a country which had first was part of the earlier negotiations, the Nairobi peace settlement. We are going to have to get Angola, which had been mandated by AU to facilitate the process. And so that you don't have a very unwieldy meeting of those two communities. Then you'll have a troika from the SANDF countries and also a troika from the Eastern African countries. So there is a meeting that is there. About intelligence, as a part of us going there, Chair, it might have been that I think the Chair will explain. The signs were there. And we had been really trying to do all we can, but unfortunately we ended up where we ended up. Yeah, I think the others, I don't want to comment about videos which I think are unfortunate. Some are old, some you can see that this is a dog touch, just to really spell. And unfortunately, the propaganda drive from the other side has been on high speed. And that's why even ourselves now as members, we speak the language of the propaganda that has been there. We have all stories of what is in the propaganda, and I don't want to create further tensions, because what is going to help us is diplomatic tension. So we don't want to talk about countries because it does create lots of difficulties. But there's been an extreme propaganda machinery, and you can hear even from the narrative at home that, no, indeed, it has reached its audience. Our own station, a broadcaster, invited a spokesperson from another country to come and speak on to the nation of this country, something which I don't think it is ever heard, but the media did it. So, yeah, you have your national broadcaster inviting a speaker from another country, and that's it. So that's the propaganda that has been going on. But I think, Chair, let me, because most of the matters are operational, let me really stop there and perhaps allow the generals and his team to assist us.
Sorry, General, there's a point of order.
Thank you, Chair. It's quite disappointing, Chair, first of all, that the Minister have this opportunity to give feedback as to when is our soldiers coming back, when is the bodies and the injured coming back, and she doesn't get that opportunity. She doesn't take that opportunity.
Should we not wait for...
Instead,
should we not wait until the answers are all given? Maybe
yes,
your questions will be answered.
No, she's the Minister.
They are all answering as a team.
Yes.
Can we allow them to answer? With your permission. Maybe your questions will be answered.
Okay.
Thank you. General, please. Let's not take any hands. Let's allow the team to answer. Then we can have follow-up issues once they've answered. General, please.
Thank you, Chair. Allow me to start off by indicating that this Honorable House, I really respect this Honorable House. The fact that our department expectations, and I honestly wanted to say, I had been always open to both the Portfolio Committee on Defense and the Joint Standing Committee on Defense when there is a need for us to interact. I have also said to the Military Command Council that we need to invite this House so that at least there is a common understanding in as far as our security architecture is concerned, because I indicated earlier that security is our collective responsibility. Chair, having said that, I've learned quite a number of things with regard to the questions that had been asked. The first one, maybe that I will have to try and respond to, which had been persistently being asked, is when are we going to get the remains of our members back? In one sentence, tomorrow. Having said that, allow me once again to say, coming to the issue of whether we are adequately resourced, trained, and equipped, I will respond to this in three ways. The first one is that this House and the honorable members are quite aware that we have had interaction with regard to the future that we want to build together. We have also then, after the advice from the honorable members of the Portfolio Committee and the Joint Standing Committee, went and devised a plan that we named the Journey to Greatness, so as to respond to the issues that pertains to the security of our country. Honorable Chair and honorable members, I think at this moment, when our country is mourning, maybe we should have a session that now addresses the challenges that this organization called the South African National Defence Force is facing. Because it was in the interest of both the Portfolio Committee and the Joint Standing Committee on Defence to say, we will be your mouthpiece when it comes to issues of this nature. We really appreciate that gesture. And that is the reason why I think maybe, because this is a very important and crucial issue that is being raised, we need to engage once again. Having listened to that when we came up with the Journey to Greatness, at least we understood that your effort hadn't been in vain, because we have received indications that the honorable members had agreed that indeed there is a need for us to build the defense force so that going into the future, we may not face challenges that we faced previously and today. You have made it a point that the announcement that the defense force budget must at least be 1.5% of the GDP. And that is as a result of your efforts. So in that way, I hope and believe that when the tempers are so high, when the emotions are so high today, our people out there wouldn't expect that us as the leaders are going to be grappling on the matter of saying, yeah, you have failed because you were not properly funded. I want to answer this one again in the manner that I would say, when it comes to our contribution to SADC mission, all the pledges that we have made, this country managed to give what had been said we would provide. And there hadn't been a shortage. Over and above, we have gone beyond the pledges because we felt that security of our people is paramount, and we have put assets that had been pledged so as to protect our people. And in that way, without saying quite a lot in terms of what is it that is there on the ground as per the security of our people, yes, indeed, we have increased our ability for intelligence collection. We have had our members becoming part and parcel of the mission assessment team of intelligence. That is the term that is less offensive when talking about intelligence. So the MAC had been created with the assistance and help of members of the SNDF as part and parcel of the SADC forces. So, on that note, our people must be aware that we knew when things were happening as to what is it that is happening. But what is important is that when we were deployed under the SADC mandate. And whatever we pick up, there were times when we even informed our host of the movements. But those movements were outside our area of operation. And the only thing we could do is to try and inform them and say, this movement might influence and affect us going into the future. And they dealt with it in the manner that they dealt with. So we, as members of the SNDF, had all what was required for us to provide. Coming to the issue of whether our members had been really properly trained, I will indicate that for every mission, before any deployment, prior to being handed over to Chief Joint Ops, there is what we call combat readiness training. And this training takes place in various units and services do combat readiness training. Then they provide the combat readiness certificate. Part of it are the exercises that take place in Luatla. Those exercises are meant at least to determine how ready are your soldiers in carrying out the mission that they are required to do. After doing combat readiness training, Chief Joint Operations then receives the soldiers, and these soldiers are then put through what we call mission readiness training. And this is the training that is tailor-made specifically for the type of the mission that they are to conduct. And indeed, this grouping that went there, they went through combat readiness training, they went through mission readiness training. And it was not for lack of training that we suffered casualties. Being a soldier, I will share with you that most of our casualties did not come as a result of close combat. It came as a result of indirect fire that was directed and DF'd to our positions. We then realized that, indeed, some of the things that are happening are things that, is there anything that we can do to avoid that? Yes, indeed. We increased security of our people, both in terms of intelligence collection and in terms of how do you then counter this bombardment. The bunkers were created, which is the logical thing that soldiers will do. We then said, are the bunkers that are available sufficient? And then they developed them, fortified them, because we realized that this is the nature of the warfare that we're going to face, and therefore the bunkers that we had to be fortified. And as I said, we train as we fight. And when we learned that we need to do that, we fortified. So our members had been resourced, they'd been properly trained. We have done everything that needed to be done in order to protect those that were in the battlefield. The next issue that Chair and honorable members that I would like to touch on is the issue of security and security in terms of soldiers having cell phones in the mission area. We said technology is a friend and technology can be our enemy. And we're not going to really say cut your youngsters from being interactive with technology. But we went out almost 5 years, if my memory serves me well, to come up with the instruction that now determines and rules on how people must use this technology not to be a threat to our security. So that instruction spells out when can you make use of your phone. Nowhere have we encouraged our people to go and take pictures like the James Bonds. We had never, and in that instruction, we had put things that need not be done that will jeopardize their security, because security of an individual also endangers security of the entire team. Let me just digress, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, to say that with the current technology, I might use my phone very innocently to speak to my loved ones at home. This, for me, does not jeopardize security. But immediately I use that phone, my position had been actually compromised. And anybody who wants to know where I am or the vicinity of my headquarters will pick up that it means if the chief is there, therefore the headquarters of this entity is at that particular point. So I am saying it is not part of what we teach them. It's not part of what we have instructed them. But in each and every situation, you will find people doing things. And most of the time, when we pick that up, we indeed punish, or we put measures to say, if this is what is happening with regard to phones, on this particular front, no cell phones. But then, when you do that, you are depriving yourself of the ability to get part of the information that comes informally, because intelligence does not only come through the direct line. So, honorable members, I just wanted to touch on that particular part because it is not what we have instructed them to do. I will not, Chair and honorable members, waste your time in trying to define whether ours was a peacekeeping or a peace enforcement. For this had been said several times. And now, Chair and honorable members, I also want to try and venture on that our role in the DRC in current dispensation as to the current situation. Currently, the presenter just touched on there is currently no fighting, let me put it that way, in and around Goma. Chair and honorable members, that does not mean that things may not change, because war is a fluid and dynamic circumstance. So the issue that I also wanted to touch on is that this is maybe the time that one will have to raise this matter of emotions once again. Emotions in the sense that the soldiers that are deployed are not only members of their families, but they are family members of the defense. We spend more time with our soldiers, and this organization is in mourning. And at the same time, we are doing everything that we are supposed to do, and we will do everything to support family members of the deceased to get this message by the media. And therefore, we send members to go and inform the families, as well as give support to the families. We went further and said, how then can we be of value to our members? We have created a structure within the Defense Force that is very informal. First and foremost, I want to underline that it's an informal structure, but we have tried to formalize it by virtue of the wives of members of the Defense Force had come together as the Spouses Forum, because most of the people that are deployed are males. Then their wives are therefore supported by the Spouses Forum. We have got a good number of females that are deployed, they are equally supported by the Spouses Forum. And that is something that one needs to underline, because it is not the Spouses Forum deals with the wives of the deployed members. The Spouses Forum deals with all the members, the spouses of the members that are deployed. So the Spouses Forum, as we talk today, they are distributing whatever little that is required for those who will be visiting the families. And that is just the gesture that they make. And the department is still considering what is it that in the formal structure need to be given to them. So the support structure that we have had been deployed to go and support the families. Chair and honorable members, I'm trying to check on the duplication of some of the issues that had been raised. In terms of the question about whether we haven't deployed our young people to go and die, the South African National Defence Force cannot be equated to one animal that brings babies and eats its babies. I wouldn't like to really think that the leadership of this organization will go and put our children in harm's way. For records, I'm not going to talk about the current capabilities that we have. In as far as the oryx are concerned, there are oryx that are deployed, but that are in under MONUSCO, which we have an agreement that because of the relationship that we share, those oryxes can be used for our own purposes. And it had been like that. The symbiotic relationship between MONUSCO and SAMI DRC had seen us sharing in the utilization of some of our resources, because we couldn't send all our resources and leave ourselves naked here at home. For Roy Falk, I'm not going to talk about the total number of Roy Falks. Yes, we have developed Roy Falks, and they are very potent, and currently I'm working on upgrading it. So I will stop at that in terms of what is it that we are doing with our Roy Falk. Chair and honorable members, there was also mention of one capability that I'm not going to discuss more about it. That is the Sika 400. Yes, indeed, we do have capability. There had been other assets that were pledged by our sister organizations. And for us to pledge the Sika 400 would have been duplication, because we all agreed whatever had been pledged that is required for the mission will utilize that, because this is a SADC mission, and each and every country that had pledged together with the capabilities. Now, the most contentious one that I want to try and respond honestly, after listening to what the force commander had said. What the minister indicated is that there had been exchange of fire from between DRC and Rwanda. That exchange of fire was said to have been initiated by the forces that had been in the base, that is at Goma Airport, the FRDC elements. These are not the elements that were deployed outside the base. They were deployed just in the base, but they had never utilized that. And when they utilized that multiple rocket launcher towards Rwanda, the Rwandese responded. And minister is right, because the first report that I've given to the minister is that we're under fire. We're being fired at, because that is when the shells were landing on my base. And then the first thing that the commander said is, say, contact. I said, what is happening? He said, we're getting fired from Rwanda. Later on, after a few minutes, is then that the minister had reported that we then realized that this is just an exchange of fire between the two. It is not purely that we are being targeted by Rwanda at that particular moment. So I just wanted to also spell out that when that was picked up, communication is something that is very, very important in war fighting. Then there was communication that ended up now with those who are firing on the other side to say, hey, you're firing at us. What is wrong? Then we were told, no, we are not firing at you. And then the commander had decided to say, for them to be able to see the parameters of our bases, that this is not FRDC. Then the commander, he could have used pink, he could have used purple, he could have used any color, but with the mist and the nature of what is happening, maybe red could have been far better for that case. But in the fog of war, anything that is in your immediate vicinity that will help to meet the objective. The objective was met by the commander taking that flag. All throughout the history of warfare, white flag had been associated with surrender. But in this case, the explanation of the commander had been satisfactory. And I said, what happened thereafter? He said the fire had ceased to fall onto the positions of my troops. Now, I said, if that is the case, it means you have achieved the objective. Even if you had used any other color, you could have achieved it. But in future, you must avoid the use of a color. But, well, next time we will...
General, you're speaking through me.
Thank
So
you.
continue.
Thank you, Chair. So let me step down on this one because the point is made that what was required was for us to demarcate it. I have responded to the issue of the relationship between MONUSCO and the SAMI DRC. I will leave that one. The next issue that maybe it's not within my bracket is the cause of our problem, which I said maybe we should try and engage in terms of the future, because the Defense Force, we do not put a plea for today only, but we would like to be resourced going into the future, because whatever capabilities and systems that we need, they've got a lifespan. The period for us to get those equipments is not something that can be like going into the shop over the counter and get what you need. Honorable Chair, I think I will stop at that. If there are other issues that I haven't touched, because I have written almost 8 pages, but I can't really go point for point. And Honorable Chair, if there is anything that the honorable members I haven't responded to, because I combined some of the questions that were asked by several honorable members. So allow me to stand down, if I may, Honorable Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. I see their hands, so right now we will take the hands with follow-up questions. I think we will change and start here with Mr. Niehaus, go here, come from the back, and then cross over.
Thank you, Honourable Chair, and I thank the Minister and the Chief of the SANDF for the responses that they have given. Unfortunately, I must say the response by the chief of the SANDF about the white flag is a tall order to believe. It is also very strange, Chair, that the SANDF deployment in the DRC did not seem to expect to be fired at. But when we read what the SADC mission says about the SAMIDRC mission, it says it is to support the DRC government in combating armed groups that threaten peace and security in the eastern DRC. And therefore, it has an offensive mandate. A defensive, not a defensive, but an offensive mandate. So why did we have to find out that we are going to be shot at, and then we had to start taking action to protect our troops? This is incompetence, Chair. Chair, I want to make the following point. Yesterday evening, I sent a message to all three of you as chairs. And I said, we've got a problem. We haven't received a report. None of you have responded to that message. The reason why we're in the problem where we are today, with the paucity of information and the lack of reporting, is exactly because you have allowed the SANDF and the minister to come here and to avoid accountability and to present to us this pitiful report. Let me now tell you quickly, Chair, what the General and the Minister should have said to us. They should have told us the SANDF and State Security Agency are not talking to each other, they're not sharing information, and the State Security Agency warned the SANDF that what is happening in the DRC now is going to happen. Then we must find out that SA members and also some SANDF intelligence members are being chased by the DRC government out of the DRC because they claim that there are intelligence breaches. Chair, the Goma airport has been closed. South African Army cannot access Goma. That is a fact. So how are we going to extract the bodies of our soldiers who passed on? I don't know, but we heard from the General it will happen tomorrow. We will see. President Kagame offered South Africa to land in Rwanda, but South Africa sees this as a humiliation by Kagame and therefore is not using this opportunity. There's no electricity for the mortuary that has been provided, and the bodies have started to decompose. This is a tragedy for the families, and it is sad for our whole country. The mortuary generator has run out of diesel. Those that are injured have run out of medical care. The fact of the matter, Chair, is the South African National Defence Force troops in Goma and in the eastern DRC are surrounded by M23. They are not allowed to move or get food. And yes, Chair, it is correct that a number of soldiers died earlier last year, and that number was 10, and this year a number more died, and more recently 5. But in total, in the past 6 months, 24 soldiers passed on. Chair, this is the kind of report we should have received from the South African National Defence Force. Clear, to the point, giving us the facts, not telling us fibs about white flags. Chair, if we received this report that we received today, last night, as it should have happened, as you as chairs should have insisted on, we would have not found ourselves in this compromised position where we find ourselves right now, and the lack of information that has been provided to us. What has happened here this afternoon is a shame. It undermines the integrity of this committee, it insults the intelligence of our nation, and it destroys our hope that this leadership, and sorry, I won't point, I'll just wave, that this leadership does not have the ability to save the SANDF, and therefore they must take their jackets and go. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The next.
Thank you, Chair. Sometimes it's not what is responded, it's what is not responded to. And the way the responses come. Chair, yes, I believe that we still have 2 flying oryxes in the DRC. The way it was put here is that they are in support of our troops, but they are not. Our troops are in a no-fly area. The oryxes are at Beni, 350 kilometers away from Goma. So I want to ask a direct question. I will appreciate a direct answer. Do we have open logistical lines to our soldiers, yes or no? And can we provide them with any air support, logistical or no, we can't give them close air support, but can we provide logistical air support? Can we provide land support? Then, I didn't hear very clearly the response of the General. Did he say, on my question on the deceased, that they will be in South Africa tomorrow, or that he would love to see them back in South Africa tomorrow? And then we are in a surrounded area. There's a new build-up between M23, supported by whoever, and we also see so M23 are regrouping, and they have got other objectives, and we see also a renewed mobilization on the FADRC side. And we are in a situation that we cannot move. So what is your role there? And please, please tell us it's for peacekeeping. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, mine is just trying to deal with this notion that there's no water and food supply to our soldiers. And I think, General, for me, that must be clarified. Is there access to food and water by our bases and our bases in DRC? And the issue of the no-fly area, is it because planes cannot fly there, or is it infrastructure problems? I think that is clarity that we need to find from you. Can we not get into our bases because of there's a no-fly area or there's no infrastructure? We cannot land somewhere in the DRC. So that is some of the things that I think must be clarified. And the food and water thing, General, please clarify us. Is there water and food supply to our soldiers in the DRC?
Chairperson, thank you, and thank you for the responses. General, I put a difficult question to you, which I understand is not easy to answer, and that is your own generals having reservations about the deployment. And there was much said about that in the media. And I'd ask you again to comment about that, where your own generals were warning against the deployment due to lack of facilities, lack of resources, underfunding, which we have raised continually. Now, it's further reported that another general has said that there's basically a stalemate situation in the moment, with the problem being that once should the SANDF wish to start engaging to relieve our besieged soldiers there, the people are going to start killing our own soldiers that are there. So the status of our soldiers there at the moment, is it a stalemate? We appreciate now there's a ceasefire, but as soon as one wants to relieve them. Secondly, I appreciate the fact that you indicated that the remains of the soldiers will be repatriated tomorrow, whether that is the beginning of the operation or not. And I understand again operational issues. But when will our troops be relieved? That is the key aspect. Those troops that are now sitting there, the reports are with limited water, limited food. When will they be relieved? And is there a diplomatic process to engage that? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, the two ministers, the minister and the deputy minister, failed to take the country into confidence, and they had this opportunity to do so. Instead, the minister took this platform and podium to protect and respond to things that shouldn't even concern her. That is up to the presidency spokesperson to respond on that. Her duty should have been to give the country answers as to when is this mission ending. As they are they have concluded it in Windhoek. Now give us a date and time. When is this mission ending? What type of mission is this that can't end, General? What type of mission is this that can't end? It's just continuous, continuous, continuous. You said you have seen the injured soldiers. And then you even reported here, you have seen the injured soldiers. Why is those soldiers not here back? If you have seen them, why are they not back in the country if they are so much injured? Why did we leave them there? So, General, your connotation of the white flag, you are misleading us and you are bringing this parliament into disrepute. And that is very irresponsible of you. For a person in this position, you don't take ourselves serious and our intelligence serious. So please, if you are doing it at some Likotla and at ANC cabinet meeting, not here in parliament, not here in parliament, and then you say we should have used, even playing it down to a red flag and not a white flag. People are dying. Families are sitting without breadwinners. And you and the minister, you come here, you come and frankly wasted our afternoon. We want also a time as to when is that plane landing, wherever, at Waterkloof or wherever, when are they landing here with those bodies? Because we want to give our brothers and sisters that have died there, fighting for God knows what they were fighting for, a dignified send-off. And then you didn't touch on the issue of standing down on the state of the nation in displaying what you are having and all of that. You haven't even touched on that because you just want it to continue as normal. So if it's indeed safe to go there, Chair, we must write to maybe perhaps as this committee, and if you don't want to write it, we'll write it ourselves as the EFF, to state that the Defence Force must not be allowed to display on the day of SONA 1. And 2, on the removal, because you didn't speak about any consequence management of even those generals that went and played golf. We're continuously seeing photos of people getting out of helicopters and all of those things. Putting the ministers displaying those populants from her office. And then she comes here and says those kids that cried over their parents that have died and the breadwinners that have died, it's fake accounts, they are making it up and all of those things. How can you make up crying for your parent that have perished? How can you make up tears that your parents won't ever be able to see you graduate, will never be able to see you married, will never be able to see their grandkids? How do you make up such emotion? So please, don't take us for granted. Don't take the country and our constituencies for granted. If you are doing it to each other there, don't involve us, don't include us. And I support the advocate, and it will come out maybe perhaps on Monday. We need an inquiry. People, heads need to roll. People need to take responsibility. It can't be business as usual, and we are comfortably displaying our army, and 14 people have perished. And it seemed to me that you still don't know how many is still likely to perish, because your answers here today haven't been satisfactory at all, and it's quite disappointing. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. And just on the back of the of my colleague's question about the deployment, perhaps the General can give us an indication. The DA has already written to the Speaker of Parliament to say that there should not be such a display. Chairperson, my questions are not re-questions. They're my original questions. They weren't answered by the Minister. I posed 3 questions, and I'm going to ask them again. The first question is about the air support, and I specifically asked about the Roy Volks. I know the General did give an answer about the Roy Volks. It wasn't my question. What the Minister did say was that you don't take all your firepower to a peacekeeping mission. I don't know if that was directed at my question, but if it was, in 2013 we deployed a Roy Volk in the DRC, and we successfully pushed back the M23 rebels. So either we do not have Roy Volks, or military intelligence is not giving our troops the information that they require. So I'm going to ask the question again. Why was the SANDF contingent deployed to the DRC despite lacking effective air superiority and a strategic air bridge between South Africa and the operational area in Goma? And the reason why I'm asking that is that the lack of air support to be deployed, the lack of air support to deployed forces is not aligned with the 2015 Defence Review. So the second question was on the back of the budget cuts, and these were all asked to the Minister on the back of her interview. My second question was, you said there is no price for peace, and you said that twice. You emphasized that. What is your current view on that? Do you still say there is no price on peace? And my third question was, who are the we confident people that you were referring to? You were confident. And who is it that has given you and the President the assurance that he can sign the deployment of our troops for another year? Who are they, and what are the consequences?
Thank you, Honorable Mutambi. Then we'll go to the bench behind you, come this way, and then we will cross. We will go to the parties to my right.
Thank you, Chair. And I appreciate the response with regard to the training. But my question was especially in terms of this M23, which is so technologically advanced. That training, I hope it equated that. And then the issue that we'll be confronted with as these committees, if you read the presidential letter on deployment for Operation Tiva, that was dated 24 December 2024. There was the issue of the total cost for the mission until 24 December. With these current developments now around Goma, I should think then the question that comes to the Chief is whether now are we not going to require additional resources to deal with these issues. So that's the issue that I wanted to raise as a way of follow-up. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. My question is, has there been joint training of the SADC forces that are deployed to DRC. My question emanates from the fact that if you hear what we are being told today by the generals, it would seem as if our forces were caught in crossfire, which talks to the lack of coordinated efforts within the SADC. That brings me to the next question that says, why are we hearing about 3 countries that are in DRC at the moment if SADC is made up of 15 countries? Did I hear wrong? I'm hearing 3 countries instead of 15 that are there. And if I can follow on the minister's statement, we rely on the 15 countries. So if they are missing in action, where does that put our own forces? My next question says, why did SAMI, DRC, and SANDF contingent not reinforce their positions and personnel when the M23 was making southerly advance? Considering that reports in open media prior to the attack on Goma in late January clearly noted the advance of the M23 and that it was advancing south to Goma. In conclusion, Chair, I hope that the general is not telling us what he thinks we need to hear when he says the bodies will be back tomorrow. I just hope that for the sake of the nation, because he's not just telling this committee, there's a nation out there in mourning. We hope that the bodies will be back tomorrow as we are being told today. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, thank you. Thanks once more to the General for the responses. But what pricked me to raise my hand, Chair, I heard the General saying the DRC was fighting the M23 in Burundi. Is it not true that the M23 are already inside DRC simply because there are some of their brothers and sisters who are actually the residents within the borders? As far as history tells us that because of apartheid or because of the colonial states, they sort of rerouted the boundaries, which resulted in part of citizens of the Rwandan state portion has been taken into DRC. I'm asking this chap, still was I've heard the chief saying the DRC soldiers were pushing the M23 into Rwanda. Then can the chief confirm or deny the fact that the reports that are running around of saying the M23 are being backed by the soldiers of Rwanda? Is it true or not true if one looks at what has been said here, that the DRC was at the back of the SANDF members, or in the middle, where the SANDF was in the middle of the DRC and the Rwanda? In your words, you've been saying Rwanda. Is that confirming the fact that Rwandan members of the defense force are aiding the M23? Thank you. Or lastly, Chair, on the issue of the rescue, can you confirm, Chief, whether it will be the UN that assist in getting out our deceased back home, or maybe it's the South African government that has sort of utilized the method of getting our dead brothers back home. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. It's now becoming a norm for the generals of the Defence Force to come and mislead this committee. I still repeat, there are ships and the aircrafts who are unserviceable. When we ask from you, you cry about budget cut. And on the other side, you do have resources, I still repeat. You do have resources that we are spending on the mission DRC. But today the general says, and the minister, the money, all the resources comes from SADC. The minister, she even said, all those 15 countries that we are counting are the ones who are supporting the mission. This is what you said, Minister. And in those 15 countries, is our country excluded from using resources, the taxpayers' money of this country, to go and support something that it's not clear? What is happening in the DRC? Don't think maybe you are dealing with blind people or people who cannot think. We are not dealing with people who cannot think here. That is why I've said from the onset, can you tell the nation and the world, what is it that we are defending there that makes you to take the payers' money, the taxpayers' money? The money that is supposed to be servicing things that are not right, like ships. You always tell us that ships are not working. That is why you are not able to do this and to do that. And you want one of your generals, some of your generals, they once presented to us that there are 2 billion, there's a 2 billion that went to assist the mission of the mission in the DRC. But today, you mislead us. You tell us that no, the money is from SADC, and the money it's from I don't know where does the money come from exactly, because you are talking about as the honorable from the left side, from my left-hand side, said, you are busy telling us about 15 countries. What are those countries? And who are those? Really, you're talking about 15 statesmen who took decision. What does that mean? What does that mean? Does that mean we must be involved? We must be involved in internal affairs of other countries, going around, because we are South Africa, going around and defending all these countries because we have become an African defense force. There's no peace that is being kept there.
Can,
We are not keeping any peace.
can you wrap up?
Yes, I'll wrap up. You are not doing any peacekeeping. Tell the world, what is it that you are defending at the expense of these soldiers? Lastly, can you bring back the soldiers? Can our soldiers be removed from the DRC back to the country? Please. Thank you.
Thanks, Chairperson. Chairperson, let me start out by saying I think I share the frustration that my other members that have spoken already are experiencing and feeling. And that is because some of the questions that we've asked, I don't think is national security, and I don't think will negatively impact our forces and our troops in the DRC. What we are here to do is we are members of parliament who are standing here as elected officials by South Africa to represent them and to ensure that the South African government has not taken our men and women into a position where they should not have been. But more than that, we need to give South Africans the assurance that they were not just there for personal interests, that their lives were not lost in vain, and that we have a reassurance in what is happening to those left. Chairperson, and if that then begs a closed session for the Minister and the Chief to take us into their confidence, to give us the honest facts about what is happening, then so be it, and I would be the first one to support that, because with all due respect, Chairperson, the answers we have gotten today does not speak to what we want to find out. We still do not know. And what worries me is in the responses by the Minister and the General, I have more questions than I had when I started in. Because how can we can be assured that it was indirect fire, it was not ground combat, close combat, yet we lost 14 soldiers. But nothing is said of the injured soldiers, because I can almost promise you, there wasn't just 14 people shot by oopsie-daisy. There was people injured. What is happening to those peoples? Because I think it was the Honourable Hutton that asked, what is happening to our logistical lines? I asked that initially. I said, you don't have to give the details, but what we want to know is, can our stocks be replenished? We are being told, be it by propaganda media and by other countries, whatever, are our soldiers being surrounded? Are they being supplied with stocks by M23 because they feel sorry for them? And are we not able to get hold of them, Chairperson? The fact of the matter is, the Minister said in her response two very, very worrying quotes, the signs were there. And then she said, we just took enough to protect ourselves. And in reference to what Honourable Gottschall said and referred to 2015 where a Roy Falk was there, and we're not saying that we need the specifics of that, but the General made mention of an Oryx. An Oryx is a utility helicopter. It's not a combat helicopter. So we have Oryxes there, but we can't protect ourselves. So the Minister is incorrect when she says we have just enough to protect ourselves, because we don't have something as simple as a Roy Falk to even protect ourselves there, and that is the problem. And Minister, lastly, Chairperson, through you, sorry, I want to know what is happening to our troops. When are we bringing them home? Or what is happening to them there? Because I know that humanitarian aid has left. Them and their assets were taken days ago. If rumors and WhatsApp messages can be trusted, the other SADC troops have also left, and it is only South African troops that are still stuck there. So I want to know, do we have a plan to protect them, replenish their forces, or take them out? Because currently we are leaving them out to dry like biltong. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chairperson. I believe we all know that there has been an exchange of words between the president of this country and the president of Rwanda, where, the president of Rwanda said, should there be any confrontation, they are ready for that. I'm checking now the status of our country in terms of capabilities and combat ready. It may happen, maybe that question may not be answered here, but it's important that maybe if it's not answered here, that the question is, are we ready in terms of capabilities, equipment, or, now, I'm worried about that because looking to the intelligence of our country, I think we have a problem. Because they were supposed to be able even to see before, what happened, but they didn't. They couldn't see it. Now, I've got, another question that the minister said, well, the SADC or MINUSCO is paying for the deployment. That's fine. We know that the president always, write a letter to say, I'm deploying the soldiers, then that money will come back. But my question, what happens now with the cost of the repatriation of the remains that are there? Who's going to pay for those, remains to come here? And is there any compensation for our soldiers that have, died there, or is going to pay the liability of our country? Chair, I think, let me go, I asked a question about how many soldiers are deployed by South Africa to DRC and under SADC and MINUSCO. Now, I'm looking at this. If you look, in DRC, we have only Malawi and Tanzania and South Africa that are part of the peacekeeping. But countries like, Uganda and others are not part of that. In terms of numbers, does South Africa have more soldiers than the other two countries, that is Tanzania and Malawi? If they are more than two countries, it seems like South Africa is like a defense force for the DRC. Maybe if I can be answered on that question, because to me, I'm worried now about when it comes for any circumstances that may take place, South Africa will be responsible. How many soldiers are deployed there? And then two, I think the last one, there is, a strategy in the department that soldiers that are above 55 years cannot be deployed to those, peacekeeping missions. What's happening with the experience that we need there to say we cannot send the people with experience, we only want to send the youngsters. And those young people going there, are we confident that just the mission training and the combat ready training, they have that experience required for them when they are there in the DRC? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. And this colleague asked if we are ready, combat ready. I don't know if you've seen the inaugurations and those paratroopers. There's always a casualty, they knock themselves out when they get to the ground. We're not ready, we don't have properly trained soldiers. If you look at it, it's we are sitting ducks. And so, Minister, I asked a question, and it was the first question I asked, and you never responded. On the 29th of January, last week, and I hope you can remember, you said had the president, if he had to issue a warning to Rwandan forces and the president stating that hostilities against the South African National Defence Force would be considered a declaration of war, it could have avoided the catastrophe. And I'm asking you, that's what you said. Are you saying that the president neglected his duty, causing the death of 14 soldiers so far, and who knows how many more, if we have to go by what the possibility of injured people there as well, because one died just 2 days ago. So, because if that's correct, and the president neglected his duty, the president must be impeached. Because the death of our sons and daughters can't have a negligent man holding such a position, causing the death of South Africans. I mean, it's not the first time he's done that. So I need you to answer that question, Minister. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Chair, thank you. Thank you very much. And let me first and foremost thank the parties that supported the proposal for, some have called it an inquiry, I have called it an investigation, be that as it may, it's a matter of semantics, but the signs are there, or the unity is there, that there must be some kind of inquiry/investigation. That is the first point. The second point is, Chairperson, what we have seen here or heard here today is, and what we know, what is happening on the ground, is a total misrepresentation of what we know, what has been reported by credible media houses and sources, and even governments, communications. It is reported that our soldiers are under siege by M23 forces. They are surrounded. It is reported that they are running out of logistics. They don't have any logistical support, i.e. food, diesel, and all those type of things, General Olamisa. They are under siege. They are just sitting there. They don't know what to do. And we were hoping to get the full truth and nothing but the truth here today. But it would appear that the truth is evading Parliament today, Chairperson. That's the second point. And then on Sunday evening, there was a retired general, he retired December. They call him Fanisa Sankara Shezi. He categorically stated on national TV that the involvement of the South African National Defence Force in the Congo is totally unnecessary. Should not be there. As a general that retired just now, December. He was in the top leadership of the army. He was on the show of Heidi Jokos. You can go and search that. And then the last point, Chairperson, I want to ask, we've heard about SADC and we're hiding behind SADC, and SADC is authorized, and we heard about the United Nations and so on, but there's nothing that, or no organization can force a country to partake in a war or in a peacekeeping or whatever mission you'd like to call it. So we cannot hide behind SADC to say it's a SADC force with 15 nations or 4 nations or what have you. We cannot hide behind it. South Africa had a free will to say no, we will not participate. And then I want to ask a straight question lastly. The FDLR, Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Rwanda, is our South African soldiers fighting alongside the FDLR, alongside when they were there, in order to reach the objective. Because many of these soldiers in the FDLR were reportedly involved in the genocide in Rwanda. If South Africa is going that route, if they're fighting alongside those forces, why is it that South Africa is going rogue? Rogue, yes. And why are we so determined to fight and achieve the objective to protect the minerals of the wealthy, the politically exposed of this country, South Africa, and all other connected people? Thank you very much.
Use your mic so that we hear you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'll limit myself to 2 finance-related questions and then a statement directed at the Minister. The first question is that in the midterm budget statement 2024 on page 60, we have penciled in more than 3.5 billion rand over the next 2 years for this, what seems to be ill-fated mission. So am I correct in my reading of the budget that this horror movie will now continue for at least another 2 years, especially given the evasive answers on when our soldiers are coming out? And the second question is that the DoD received qualified audit outcomes for the past 5 financial years. The SIU is running multiple investigations into the DoD, including for Gupta-linked contracts for armored vehicles, which we paid billions for and still haven't received, and not one was available to Goma. And is it then not accurate that the rampant corruption in the DoD is responsible for the deaths of South African soldiers? My statement to the Minister is as follows. Your responses here strike me as taking on an arrogant tone. You say to us that if you missed our questions, then we must ask them again. And then you say to us that the soldiers are there to protect themselves and therefore might not have adequate weapons. Now, I understand that the Minister takes luxurious holidays abroad, and this House has already confirmed that 10 years ago. But this is not a holiday, Mr. Chair. Our soldiers are either there to fight or they should come home. Minister, I think you ought to resign in disgrace and go off into the sunset instead of coming here with that attitude.
No, thanks, Chairperson. I think I will have to commend the Defense Secretary for his attempt to spin the issue of the white flag. So it's quite funny. It's worrisome from the Minister to utter irresponsible statements to suggest that we are combat ready to defend ourselves against any threat as a nation, knowing very well that we are in no position to even maintain our own artillery and sustain what we have, including the upkeep of the equipment. So it's worrisome if she sleeps peacefully at night under such reality. It's really disturbing. I would propose and suggest that the Minister hang her boots and give someone with a little patriotism, because it's unpatriotic of her to utter such irresponsible statements under the conditions that we find ourselves in the South African National Defence Force. So it is undeniable fact that since early 2000, we've been involved in this mission, and this mission is about the resources of the DRC. Now, with the elementary comprehension of the President's diplomacy, he's been uttering all sorts of things that create problems for the nation, and it exposes our vulnerability and poses a threat against us, including the Minister. It's worrisome. Now, with the desperation of Kagame and other players that are buying these Zamazama acquired minerals, diplomatically, because he is desperate. Now, if these engagements don't yield any peaceful outcomes, what then becomes our position in this particular mission as a nation? Because it poses serious war, serious threats, and it means we ought to be ready to be able to handle the implications of our activities and presence in the DRC at this stage, should we not find diplomatic outcomes, peaceful outcomes, and ultimately find the peace that we claim and or characterize this mission to be as peacekeeping mission or peacekeeping force, but knowing very well that there's hard force and the defense personnel is exposed to heavy artillery in a war zone. So if maybe the minister and the defense secretary can respond to such in terms of our diplomatic approaches, what are we ready indeed to fight if we are to fight, because this has been happening for over decades now. Thank you.
Sitting. Oh, thanks, sir. My advice to the office of the minister is for them to improve on communication so as to avoid these different signals. Because as we all sit here, we've got different signals of what is exactly happening in TRC. The office of the minister, the office of the president, and the chief of the SANDF. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I'm always the last one, can say that. But now that we have been briefed by the minister and the SANDF, I think now we know what is happening in the DRC. Let alone that it seems as if we as members, we had our own information. Being given the answers, we're still having those information, and we want the answers to be like that. I think for us, we need to make an assessment and evaluate the situation of our soldiers now that we have been given this information, and take a decision of what must happen to those soldiers. We must leave out all the other issues. We've said that when are they coming back, those bodies? And yet we're saying again, they're being put there, they're not coming tomorrow. And yet we have been given that information. Why don't us as members, because this thing, it's not for a particular party. This issue is for the nation. Because those soldiers, they are not for a particular party. Those corps of those soldiers are not for a particular party. Then we need to grandstand. We're talking about lives lost here, being on a mission. I think us as members, we've said that we cannot do anything except we're given the correct information. Then out of that correct information, and yet we're still saying that this is the wrong information. Which information did you want? Which information did you want to hear? Now say to the minister and the generals, look out at the situation, weigh the situation there in the DRC, evaluate and make an assessment. Then when you want to say, advise us. In fact, we're going to tell you of what you must do. Thank you.
Honorable Dakota, then we'll go back to the minister and the team.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, and once more. I think from the flow of discussion, it has become very concerning that I will have to ask the Chief of the National Defence Force to take the nation into confidence, whether as South Africans in South Africa are we safe, so that we deal with the possible anxiety in our nation as a result of the casualties we suffered in the DRC, so that we tell the nation the country is safe and all our people, so that there is no doubt. But I would also want to implore on the portfolio committee, joint as it is, that as a nation we swim together and we sing together in moments such as this ones. What is very key, even though members raise issues of concern, including the repatriation of bodies, I think we still have to have full confidence in our department who can help us to bring our bodies back at home and ensure that there's a safe evacuation of those who are going to remain behind, to bring them back also home finally when the mission ends. So I would implore on the committee that we are solution driven in points that we want to raise, and not undermine the fact that the points that were raised were very genuine, upright and straightforward. And I think it's incumbent upon those who are in administration to ensure that we fully implement what the portfolio committee would like to be done, and that all aspects raised by the portfolio committee are taken into consideration. Chairperson, I would like to thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Minister, Deputy Minister, and the generals. Thank you. There is a hand.
Sorry, Chair. Questions were asked in the second round. There were no responses. Do we understand that those responses will be coming in writing, and if so, when?
When I mentioned them, I was asking them to respond to the questions, then we close. I have been receiving a few texts from members reminding me that the meeting was supposed to finish at 4. The members were quite generous in their contributions. And so if you honorable members feel that we should allow for written answers, but let me give the minister to answer those questions they can answer, and the rest are noted, will be responded to in writing. Minister.
No, thank you very much, Chair. I won't be long. Again, if they are missing answers from the questions raised, we will be willing to respond, Chair. And Chair, I have to say this with utmost respect and humility, that it will be, I will not be able to repeat the answers that I've given on some of the questions. And if members are not happy with the answers, it's unfortunate. Those are the answers we have. Because member says, the minister should have said this, the minister should have said this. So he has the answers that he wants. So I can't say the things that he wants to hear. I have to say the things that I need to say, so that if members to say the minister should have said this, then why was I asked until they have the answers? So I will not be able to get that and repeat the answers or give answers in the way the members want them. The one that I want to, there was also to say that the member says asked 3 questions. I answered to say I agree with, I stand by what I said. When I say we, I'm the Minister of Defense and the spokesperson for the department. So I am entitled to say we as the department. And unfortunately, I even include you as a South African, because I'm your minister. So when I say we, I even speak on your behalf. Yeah. So you are also included. So we includes you. And to say, Chair, no, you can choose what. And to say, Chair, I said peace, there's no price. I'll say it 10 times. So to repeat what I said, to say I stand by what I said, I stand by it. And I speak on your behalf as your minister. And then, Chair, on colonialism, I think it's a very interesting debate that is unfolding. But the principle is that is there internationally, that we have to respect the existing boundaries of colonialism. We respect the integrity, because if we bring it home close, Chair, which means you can even start questioning the Lesotho, Swaziland, and Botswana, because they're protectorates which come from South Africa, and therefore says the Basutus in Lesotho are not Basutu. So, so it's an interesting debate, it's a historical debate, but the principle is recognizing and respecting the integrity of existing boundaries, colonial boundaries. And yes, it has its own difficulties. So Tutsis in Congo are Congolese first. More than Tutsis. But it's an issue for them. And I don't think it's an issue I think we can resolve. But I think that's what the principle is saying. And I think, Chair, we've said so many things about budgets, then in the budget speech. I thought we were speaking about the next time they want us to speak about the budget, what we say about the shortfalls and how that we will be able to answer it. Because we can't answer everything in one situation. So we were asked to speak about the situation that in the DRC, and that's what we tried to do. But if there are more questions about the budgets, what we said in the budget speech, we will still be able to do it if members want it. So we'll still do it. And the other one, which I must say, Chair, again, I don't want to be sounding judgmental. I'm quite surprised that the South Africans were questioning solidarity with other countries. We're products of solidarity. That's why we're able to go and repatriate remains in other countries. So solidarity is part of us. Now to say, what do we want there? What do we want there? When we're chased by apartheid, we run to those countries. It is a responsibility to be in solidarity with countries. So it's not anything that we should be ashamed of, that we're in solidarity. And then, as I say, what the general said, it's also this matter of saying, because one general said this, and he's saying what we want to hear, so what that general is saying, that's the truth. It's our choice to take what the general is saying is the ultimate truth, because the general is saying what we want to hear. And Chair, because I was reprimanded to say I should speak respectfully to members. The member is not here. I really just don't think it's correct, even for members, to cast aspersions on people's personalities. That I travel and stay over. I don't even know anybody, and it's I go to holidays in Limpopo, because that's where, or even KZN. And so I think if there are issues that we raise here, let's not raise issues about our private personal lives and how do I sleep. Do I have to come and speak about my sleeping patterns? I just think it's a problem, Chair, and I'm really asking for equal respect, because we are instructed to respect, which is, how do I sleep at night? I don't think I have to come and speak about my sleeping patterns. So I do accept that we have to improve communications, but on the strength of the force, I think the other thing also, Chair, this has raised a very important debate. There's a recent report which is ranking defense forces in the country. And I can proudly tell the members that South Africa comes third in the continent after Egypt and Algeria. We're number 3. So we have no doubt. So all the things that were not properly trained, I think we will not be a perfect defense force. We can't be a perfect defense force. I don't think there's any perfect structure, but we're saying in terms of what we need to do, I can assure members, I can assure the public that indeed we are a force to reckon with. We are a force to reckon with. So I want to stop there and say, because
honorable members, please. No. Honorable members, let's be fair with one another. Let's be fair.
Point of order. Chair,
Point of order.
Chair, the minister does not speak on my behalf, nor on behalf of the economic freedom fighters.
Honorable,
The minister's response is a shame, and she should be ashamed of herself, and I apologize, and she will not apologize. I apologize to the nation and to the families of the soldiers who died for what she had done and what the SANDF had done. Not in my name.
honorable members, honorable members, honorable members, we are honorable members. Honorable
Chair,
members,
please control the
honorable
meeting.
members, what we are doing right now, is shameful. It is extremely shameful. The country is looking at us to discuss an important matter. We allow ourselves to digress from the topic at hand at any given time for cheap party political scoring. Let's not do it. Let's not do it. The country is watching us. There are people awaiting their children. We've all spoken here as if we are sympathetic. If we are as genuinely sympathetic, then let's demonstrate it in action. We may have different views about issues being discussed, but let's respect one another and respect the sensitivity of the topic on the table. I request us to please remain calm. General, please respond to the questions that you have to respond to, and then we close the meeting.
Thank you, Chair.
Chair, I'm sorry you didn't recognize my hand. You didn't
Yes,
recognize
let us take the answers. We do not have the whole time to be sitting here. Let us take the responses. Honorable members, you had 2 sessions to raise questions. And on top of that, you don't want responses. You still want to talk even more.
Chairperson, the minister, and what is shameful is that you are saying we need to respect the environment that we are in.
Absolutely.
The minister's responses are not respectful.
You do not agree with the minister. That is a separate topic.
Who advised her and who advised the
not-
president? She says she's speaking on all of our behalf. That is not an answer.
Honorable member, I request your respect. Yes, I do. I request it. And don't respond. I request your respect. You have asked questions. If you don't agree with the minister, you do not have to raise that at each time she speaks. Just as nobody raises their disagreement with you each time you speak. Let us allow the questions, the answers to the questions asked to be tabled. They are being tabled. If you don't agree with them, that's a subject for another matter. General, please respond.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to honorable members for all the inputs. And we, as the South African National Defence Force, take note of the advice, concerns. And as I said, whilst the nation is in mourning, I also am equally one of those that are touched. I just want to respond to a few things. Whether state security and the Defence Force do share in information, there is a symbiotic relationship between SSA and the National Defence Force. There are forums that had been created. We do share and we do take heed of the advice that they give. I think I will stop at that in terms of the sharing. Honorable Chair, I know I do not belong to this elite house, but I would like to raise the fact that the Defence Force is not a party Defence Force, and nor is it partisan. It is supposed to be apolitical. And to refer to the Chief of the National Defence Force saying that go to the ANC Cabinet Lekgotla, for me, Chair, I think your Defence Force, honorable members, it's your Defence Force. It's not, it belongs to the people of South Africa, and the people of South Africa's confidence lies in the ability of the Defence Force to be able to take care of their lives. And on that note, I would like really to take this matter and say, I want to reiterate, we are apolitical as a Defence Force. Chair, the second issue that I just want to respond to matters that had been raised which we are supposed to answer to. I am not going to spare the details, except that we were very excited when we were told that you are making this sitting an open sitting so that we can at least take our people in confidence and be able to share with them what they need to know. We have tried to respond to the current situation and the disposition of M23, as well as why I had been mentioning Rwanda. I want to put this in context, Honorable Chair and members. What I said is not that we were between FRDC and M23. I was referring to the incident that happened at Goma Airport, where FRDC fired across the border into Rwanda. That is when I mentioned Rwanda as a country. Secondly, I said Rwanda responded to their fire, because if you are fired at, in whatever way, the fire was coming over our base, because indirect fire does not go straight. So you are between the forces that are firing and those that are being fired at. And that is what I meant when I said we found ourselves now between the fire of FRDC, which is the DRC forces, and Rwandan forces, which is RDF. That is the clarity that I wanted to make on that matter. Then the other issue, Chair and members, when we were here in this session, I got this message because all along I'd been getting information with regard to progress. I'd been engaging with different stakeholders for me to be able to reaffirm when am I going to get my youngsters back here, because they are part of my defense family. So I got a message to say there is assurance that repatriation of our members is going to take place tomorrow. And that is the message that I just read. And I didn't mince it, I didn't interrogate it. And so that is what I have said. And I am saying so because I'm saying this to honorable members as well as to all South Africans. The third issue that I just want to respond to is that we are not habitual liars. And one thing that we try and do is to provide information that is as accurate. Where we don't have details, we are open to say we will go and provide responses. But we are not liars. And the challenge, Honorable Chair and Honorable members, is that when a certain general issues a statement that is not supported and is not reported through the channels of command, one may not be able to try and respond to. I wouldn't like to delve into what General Shezi said. That is something that we can engage on outside, because I won't be able to give a response to. The last issue, there are so many other issues that had been raised, but I'm going to the last one, and I will also, if so allowed, because it is through you, Chair, that the GOC OP-HU who had been presenting might have additional information that I might have left out. However, I want to reassure all South Africans that you do have a defense force that is capable of defending and protecting you. The unfortunate incident that happened in DRC is not as a result of lack of our ability to protect and defend you. We will continue to be your pillar, the last hope that you have, and we will always continue to bring hope where hope is abundant. So on that note, South Africa and all its people, we will continue to protect the territorial integrity. We will continue to look after your needs, and we will need, during this period of mourning, to rally our effort together and move into conclusion of this sad period of grief. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members of
Deputy Minister Olumisa, any word?
Chairperson and honorable members, this task has been handled by 3 people in this country. This incident which we have been witnessing is the President, Minister of Defense, and the Commander of the National Defense Force. The briefing they have given you, I think, is within their mandate. And I don't think, therefore, we need to elaborate more. But what I would suggest we do in future, because our troops are still in the battle or in the field there are certain things which can be discussed in the open. There are certain things which cannot be discussed. How I wish that perhaps the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence, which includes all the structures, including defense, could have been the one which started this process, because there everyone has been vetted and screened. And the general and the minister, even the president, would have been free to speak openly in more detail, especially on issues related to operations. But I heard that you might have another session, but that one would be within the closed doors. So I hope that the department will assist you in that regard. Lastly, there are 2 things which I wish this committee can do. You are aware about the question of resources of the Department of Defense. I think you need to assist the department by engaging the relevant portfolio committee of finance with a view to present a case for our troops and the country. Secondly, the other matter which you may have to consider is how are we going to deal with the clarion call which says bring back the troops of South Africa back home. It is not the Department of Defense which will take that decision. It is yourselves, because you approved the deployment of troops in DRC. So we may have to say, all right, let's call the international relations, the presidency, to form a committee to evaluate the whole setup. But to expect the Department of Defense that it would just take the troops out of DRC, so that is not going to happen. We may be invited to submit a staff paper which says what is the situation there, and then we take it forward. But the Department of Defense, I'm sure, is going to participate in such discussions. But at the present moment, the operation in DRC is at the need to know level. Even the Deputy President and myself, we don't sit with the President and Minister and the Commander. So let us leave it like that. Please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. The co-chair will close the meeting. Just as we do.
I have a feeling you are concluding. I want to repeat my question. The questions that have not been responded to, will that now follow in writing?
If you just are patient a bit, I would have answered already your question.
You are already
No,
referring to the
you were not patient enough to listen to me. I was going to
I was
answer your
afraid
question.
you would say the meeting is closed before I start speaking.
Okay, no, not a problem. Just as I hand over to the co-chair, just a few remarks. The outstanding questions, General, we have 7 working days within which to give us written responses. Secondly, we certainly have to pursue a closed meeting for other issues that would not be responded to in a public meeting. So we will ask the presiding officers for a date for that. Thirdly, on the state of the National Defence Force, the committee of the 6th Parliament had made a report and requested a debate in the House on the state of the National Defence Force, particularly in view of the declining budget and other issues. We have written to the presiding officers reiterating that plea for a debate so that we can discuss that issue. We don't think the meeting on, the debate on Monday will have time to cover that. The meeting on Monday in Parliament, the debate on Monday will deal specifically with the DRC. We still would like to have a debate in the House on the general issue of the state of the National Defence Force as arising from the report of the 6th Parliament. So we are going to follow up until we are given a date for that debate. We have noted, Honourable Niehaus, the point you raised regarding documentation. I think the issue was the sensitivity of the matter, and because there was a confusion about whether it would be a closed meeting or an open meeting. But the point is noted. We will ensure that that is adhered to going forward. And finally, for SONA, I don't think I think the chief whips of the political parties must raise the issue with the presiding officers because we can't direct Parliament with regard to the, what do you call it? Yes, the Grand Parade. But I think the chief whips of the presiding officers, of the political parties, must be spoken to raise it with the presiding officers. And Co-Chair, I hand over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Minister, Deputy Minister, the Command Staff, and honourable members. Honourable members, the DRC matter comprises a complex and a deeply seated factors in our continent, and I think the summary which has been presented here gave us a context and of the deployment and the state of our soldiers currently, and including the state of activities of the key fighting forces in DRC. And they were very open. And the general indicated again here that the war is fluid in any dynamic circumstances. Therefore, we believe in what they are saying. We will engage as this committee together will engage on these matters in order to find a solution. We really appreciate your concern, and we hope the minister and all of us have noted your concerns, and that they will indeed, provide answers where possible. And the issues which are related to operational matters, let's leave them to the command staff, and we really believe and and have confidence on the institutions, and we must give them much cooperation and assistance where possible. With this few words, honorable members, thank you very much, and thank you, Minister, and thank you, support staff, and the meeting stands adjourned. Thank you. Thank you.
At the end.
It was hectic. It was hectic.
You were afraid you were going to
Yeah, yes, it went to the crossfire because I could say, M23 was firing from that side.
Indians waiting for us.